Hello y'all, welcome back to another video. Today in this video I will be reading the rest of my story that I created. It's got chapter 6 is now done, so I just wanted to notify y'all about that. I might read the entire thing to y'all. If you haven't seen the first video, well then here you go. Here's the next. Let's start with chapter 1. The Mansion of Death. Chapter 1. Fred Hoppelberg is a known ghost hunter. He explores haunted places all around the world, but when he thought he has been everywhere, including a church that he thought was the most haunted place in the world, the people paying him didn't tell him about a mansion in the middle of nowhere. They wanted to see if he would go to every haunted place. They told him that it is the most haunted place in the world. Fred was driving down the road. He got to the mansion and got his equipment ready. He walked to the front doors and unlocked the doors with the key he got for the mansion. And he walked in and the doors slammed shut right behind him. When he heard the slam, he quickly looked back and ran to the doors. Tried opening them, but the doors were tightly shut. So he slowly walked back, then turned around and walked down the hall. As he walked, the floor creaked. He walked and walked what felt like forever, until he finally got to the ballroom and looked around with his flashlight. Then he checked his thermometer, but when he checked the thermometer, it suddenly became freezing temperatures in the room. So he checked his spirit box and said, "Is anyone here?" And the spirit box said, "Yes." And when it said yes, he heard a door creaking open behind him. When he heard it, he looked back and it slammed shut. He ran out of the ballroom, went to a library inside the mansion. There was a chandelier that had light coming from it, but it was faint. He walked around and looked ahead of him. There was some sort of kid that was crawling on the floor like a spider. It looked like a little girl. Then it looked at him and vanished. He ran through the dark hallway and turned the corner. Saw a black figure with completely white eyes. He stopped and looked for about 10 seconds, then it disappeared into the darkness. So he kept walking through the mansion hallways, and suddenly everything was red like blood, and he heard a whisper in his ear saying, "Run." So he looked behind him and saw a little boy with no eyes chasing him like a spider, crawling on the floor. So he ran as fast as he could down a hallway that his eyes staring at him as he ran away. And then suddenly he woke up in a chair with a black figure staring at him. He woke up again, but the figure was gone as if it were a dream. "If it was a dream, why could I move perfectly?" he said. Mansion of Death, Chapter 2. When Fred woke up from the dream, a ghost that was a mother of the children that has also died was released, and it was roaming the mansion. So while it was roaming, Fred explored the room he was in, found out he was locked in it. It was like an escape room where he had to find clues and try to escape. He was looking around the room and saw blood on the floor that was there for a long time. When he saw it, he froze in his tracks and just stood there, looking at the blood on the floor. So he walked backwards and tried opening the door, beating the door and banging on the door, but it would not open. Then he found a knife and used his lock-picking skills and unlocked the door, walked out with his flashlight. Then suddenly he heard loud knocking from far away, so he walked closer and closer. As he walked, it got louder. Bang! 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 He got so close to the banging that it stopped. He turned to look beside him and saw another library, so he walked in and read some of the books. Then he found out when this mansion was built in 1745. So that is when it was built. But why is it in the middle of a forest? He said. So he kept looking until he found a book that contained what he was looking for, but it was hidden like someone tried to hide it amongst the books. And it said, "This house was abandoned due to every person that has ever been inside this house has perished. It was owned by a family of 4. After he read it, there was a screech from far away in the mansion. He got scared and ran towards the stairs and went up to the second floor. When he got to the second floor, he saw a woman that was in white clothing with blood stains on it and black hair. But she had no eyes at all. She only had her eye sockets with blood in them. Then the entire second floor had tons of doors in his way that he had to unlock to get to the next floor. The first 10 doors were fine, but after 10 it started getting creepy. There were eyes on the walls staring at him as he walked. Suddenly, demonic beings with razor-sharp teeth were chasing him. The walls were drenched with blood of the dead bodies that were torn apart by the demonic beings. The Mansion of Death, Chapter 3. He ran and ran for as long as he could, but then somehow he escaped the spirit's grasp, and when he did, everything was no longer blood red. It was just silence, and everything was calm. So calm that it was terrifying. So he took his breath and just relaxed, but was still on his guard. I haven't got any sleep since I left home, but I must stay awake or I'll perish, he thought. So he tried not to pass out, but he did. And as he fell, he saw something creepy just standing there as if it knew he was going to pass out. 1 hour later, he woke up in the same chair he was in before, but the knife and blood were gone. The door was still open from when he unlocked it. Why do I keep waking up from this chair? He thought. He checked his watch and it said 3 a.m., but it was the same time as when he walked into the mansion hours before. He saw something on the wall, and it looked like a note, but no ordinary note. It was written in blood, and it said, "We will find you." He threw it on the floor and walked out. He felt like he was going in circles. Suddenly he felt Nora's pain like he got stabbed in the leg. But then it got worse and worse until he fell and hurt his leg. After he fell, the pain went away, so he instead felt the physical pain of his hurt leg. Instead of just sitting there, he fought the pain and got up. He started walking, turned on his flashlight, and got ready. Then he cruised through the hall. He heard a screech that was familiar to him. He heard it when he walked out of the room he was locked in. He walked as fast as he could to the nearest room and hid. As he was hiding, he heard the floor creaking as if there was another person in the mansion, and it turned from creaking to heavy footsteps. Then it stopped at the door of the room he was in. So he tried to stay as quiet as possible. Then after a minute, the footsteps started again, but it sounded like it was walking down the hall, leaving the room. So when it was far enough away, he peeked around the corner and there was nothing there. So he ran out and fell because he felt the pain of getting stabbed in the arms and legs, but it was the demonic beings playing tricks on him. He woke up at the chair again. Did I die? But if I did, then why am I still alive? He thought. He got out of the chair, but the room was different. It was a bathroom with only a mirror in the chair he was sitting in. He went to the mirror and checked it out. It was okay. It just had his reflection. So he walked away, and in the corner of his eye, he saw a woman that he saw before. When he did, he looked back and there was nothing there. So he went to the mirror and saw her behind him in the corner of the room. She suddenly started running at him, then disappeared into the mirror, and came out from the mirror and started chasing him. As he was running, he heard a whisper in his ear that said, "Come find me. I can help you." After that, everything was calm again, and he noticed that he was on the 3rd floor. He looked around and found pieces of tattered clothing. He felt something under his foot, a book containing information about the 3rd floor. In the book, it told of monsters who roamed this mansion and took the lives of whoever tried living here. Everyone that has ever entered this mansion has perished. The monsters were pets of the family that once owned the mansion. Fred was confronted by a werewolf. That was wearing tattered clothing with blood stains, that was just staring at Fred. It was growling like it was about to rip him to shreds. Fred did not make any sudden movements. He slowly walked backwards and had his flashlight pointed at the werewolf the whole time. He knew if he were to take the light off the werewolf, he would get killed. Then the werewolf vanished into darkness, and now it was quiet. He heard something loud behind him. It sounded like there was something or someone running at him from behind. He looked behind him and saw the werewolf again, but suddenly his flashlight ran out of battery. He ran for his life and got far ahead of the werewolf, but not even that would save him from his demise. The werewolf caught up to him, pushed him to the ground. It was growling like it was about to devour him. The werewolf opened its mouth and consumed him. The last thing he saw was the teeth of the werewolf. He awoke in a chair and thought he was dead. Am I in heaven? Oh, I am not in heaven. I am somehow still alive. He noticed that the room was familiar, but also unusual. The room number was 888, but it also looked like it was 333. For some reason, he thought to go inside the room. When he went inside the room, a faint breeze of chilly air went past him. Fortunately, he was wearing a jacket because it was cold inside the mansion. He was scared because no other haunted place he had ever been to never had this much paranormal activity. Neither did he see living monsters in any place he had been to. He was so scared that he thought to run through the hallway, but it was not a hallway, it was a maze. Why does this mansion have a maze? He spoke. He walked through the maze and tried figuring out where the exit of this maze was at. Then he heard the shriek of a woman. He ran away from it, but it got closer. Finally, it showed itself. The Mansion of Death, Chapter 5. The woman was a maid that would clean up blood from the dead bodies and feed them to the werewolf. Fred was running through the maze trying to escape it. Every turn he makes, there is a barrier in his way. He runs and runs, but he cannot find the exit. But a stroke of luck saved him from being werewolf food. There was an exit right in front of him, so he escaped the maze. But he was still on the third floor and was being followed by the black figure with glowing red eyes watching him. He did not know that he was being followed by the shadowy figure, but he was being followed by it since he escaped the demonic beings. He came across a room and went inside and found a CRT TV on the table that had a VCR player inside. There was a VHS tape inside that had not been played yet. So he turned on the TV and hit the play button for the VHS tape and watched CCTV camera footage all around the mansion. It showed that there was a shadowy figure standing in front of a camera outside of the mansion. The VHS also had the time and date of the camera footage. The time and date were 3/3/2003, 3 a.m. When he saw the date and time, he was petrified by it because that was the exact time for him right now. He checked his watch again, and it was the exact same time. Then when he looked back at the footage, the shadowy figure had vanished. He looked around for more VHS tapes so he could find out where it was now. But he only found one. He put the VHS tape into the VCR player and hit the play button. He watched as it went through different places, but the things he saw on the VHS tape were very familiar to him. Everything he saw in it was him running away from the ghost and the werewolf, but every single time he died in the clips, it would show him in the chair, but asleep. And there on the tape, he saw the shadowy figure watching him as he slept. Then he woke up, but the figure had disappeared right as he woke up, and he watched himself running away from the werewolf. But he wasn't running away. He was in the chair the whole time. The VHS tape showed two different clips that were happening at the same time. One of the clips showed him asleep in the chair being watched by the shadowy figure, but the other clip showed him running away from the demonic beings after he woke up in the chair. The clip would go to another time when he was running for his life, but he would also be asleep in the chair. In the second clip, it showed him running away from the werewolf, but he was also in the chair being watched by the shadowy figure. Every single clip had all the events from when he was being chased by the demonic beings, maid, ghosts, werewolf, and the children that were chasing him. He took the VHS tapes and put them in his backpack. After that, he started running out of the room. The Mansion of Death, Chapter 6. When he ran out of the room, he saw something that absolutely terrified him. It was a different shadow figure. It had a smile that was beyond terrifying. The figure didn't have a human shape. It was completely see-through, except for the eyes and mouth. With its deathly smile, it said, "Hi," in a calm voice, but the voice also sounded distorted. The figure said, "My name is Hell. Who might you be?" in a very calm yet sinister tone. He ran away from it and looked back as it was running away, but it was gone. So he stopped to look around for some sort of light, but he couldn't find anything because it was so dark for some reason. And he saw something in the distance. It was faint red light that got closer and closer until it engulfed the hallway in blood. He looked around to find somewhere he could hide, but he couldn't because there was nothing in the hallway except for a table that had a note on it. The note said, You can't escape this dimension. This is my domain. Then after he read the note, the table disappeared right in front of him. He felt an ominous presence near him. Felt like the presence of hell. He ran away from it. He ran as far as he could, but it kept getting closer as he ran. He tried to open the doors that went in the hallway, but every single door was locked. He looked back as he was running, but he saw nothing behind him. Then everything was no longer blood red, and it got quiet. Suddenly he saw a figure walk out from the darkness and stop 8 feet in front of him. Then it started to say words in a language he didn't know. It disappeared in front of him, so he went the other way, but the figure was behind him. This time there was blood dripping from the figure, so he punched it in the face. After he punched it in the face, he saw sharp teeth with blood on them inside its mouth. He was horrified by its teeth, so he ran away from it. And it started to chase him while making a terrifying screech as it chased him. He got closer and closer as he ran for his life, and he was also thinking about the VHS tapes he had. He thought that there would be another VHS tape being created as he was running. The thing chasing him disappeared, so he was safe and found another room. He thought of going inside, but he chose not to, so he turned around, but there was no exit. He was forced to go inside, and when he did, he saw another VHS tape on the floor. It was labeled Real Footage. He snatched it and ran, then the thing reappeared from the darkness. This time it had black eyes with a speck of white in the middle. Its teeth were covered in blood. They were sharper than a sword, and it was screaming like a fox. He saw a door that was open, so he ran for it as fast as he could. He was so close, but the door was slowly closing. He ran faster. His heart was beating uncontrollably. He ran, and finally he got to the door before it closed fully. He slammed the door and heard loud banging. He thought the door would be smashed down, but the banging stopped, and the silence began. He walked into a room and found another CRT TV with a VCR player. He put the VHS tape into it and saw him sleeping in the chair, but at a different angle. There was one thing that terrified him. He saw hell instead of the shadow figure. He left the VHS tape playing, and he ran straight out of that room. He stopped to look back, but saw nothing, so he kept running. So that's all. That's all for now. Chapter 7 will eventually be here, but for now it's not going to be here. I hope you enjoyed the video, though. If you did, like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I will put some of the pictures in this video. I hope y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.